This is as true of the growing vegetable as of this growing solar system. The low temperature of our atmosphere supplies a sufficient furnace to bring the low potentials of the flesh of growing vegetables to their melting points. The low pressure of expansion then freezes them into the densities appropriate to their low pressures. The high opposing pressures and temperatures of the sun do exactly the same thing. Planets are melted in its furnace and molded into shape by the opposing pressure walls, which trim and prune them into harmonic spheres of dimensions proportionate to their potential positions. High pressure produce more dense substances of greater strength for the framework of nature's structures, whether those structures are vegetable, animal, or solar systems. Increase in density means decrease in axial of speed-time dimension and increase in orbital of power time. Expanded substances are described by chemists as active and contracted substances as inactive. Gases, for example, are classed as active and solids as inactive states of substance. That is because expanded substances unite more readily in low potential positions where expansion pressure has separated light units to great distances. They are expanded that they integrate readily. Their opposing streams join. Hard substances, on the contrary, do not unite so readily in the low pressures of this planet. They require the force of such high opposing pressures as those of our sun to make them unite. Two gases such as fluorine 501 and lithium 501, one's a plus and one's a minus, will leap together with explosive violence in ordinary atmospheric pressure. Pour several liquids in the same stream, and soon they will all blend if the planes of their atoms are not too far removed. A stream of metal balls would require the pressure force of a very high temperature to expand their particles so that they would blend as one liquid metal stream. The constant of activity would not in any way be changed by thus changing its dimensions. The metal would not become more active by expanding it. The expansion would but retard one time dimension and accelerate the other. It was not less active while it was contracted. What it lacked in activity of rotation is made up for in activity of revolution. Activity never lessens and inactivity never increases because of any change of dimension. Every expression of motion has its equal and opposite expression. There can be no increase or decrease in any effect of motion without a balancing increase or decrease in its opposite effect. Apparent decrease in activity of a dense mass is merely a lessening of the speed of rotation and a balancing increase of the speed of revolution. There are two speeds, two opposing speeds, which are equal and opposite. To apply the brake to one is to accelerate the other and vice versa. Just so with volume. Expanded volume has less apparent ability to attract. Therefore, there must be relatively less positive charge in expanded than in contracted volume. The volume of a hydrogen or lithium atom is greater than that of a beryllium atom, and the volume of beryllium is greater than that of boron. The boron atom has greater power to attract and greater power to repel than the beryllium atom. The power to attract lessens as volume increases. The power to repel also lessens as volume increases. This is true in every one of the octaves of the elements, in every element, in every atom of every element, and in every planet and light unit of every atom. Each element has a different volume and mass, and each one, in accordance with its potential position, has a separate and individual ratio of attraction and repulsion power. In any mass, the decrease in volume is in exact proportion to the increase of its potential. In any mass, the decrease in volume is in exact proportion to the increase in positive charge, contraction, pressure, and temperature. Mass of less volume is of relatively higher potential, greater positive charge, and greater pressure than a similar mass of greater volume. Mass of less volume is contracted mass, and similar mass of greater volume is expanded mass. Contracting mass draws away from similar expanding mass in the opposite direction, forming an eccentric orbit of revolution around the nuclear center of its system. The orbit of any contracting mass is ever drawing closer to the nuclear center of its system in closing spiral lines. All mass with a decreasing orbit is ever accelerating its speed of revolution in that orbit. All of the conditions precedent to the appearance of increasing ability of mass to attract and to repel have 8 conspicuous effects in common. These are increasing centrifugal preponderance, pressure, temperature, speed of revolution and positive charge, and decreasing volume, area of orbit, and speed of rotation. On the contrary, all of the conditions precedent to the appearance of decreasing ability of mass to attract and to repel have the 8 opposite effects in common. These are decreasing centrifugal preponderance, pressure, temperature, speed of revolution, and negative discharge, and increasing volume, area of orbit, and speed of rotation. In any mass, the greater its speed of revolution, the greater its power to attract and to repel. In any mass, the greater its speed of rotation, the less its power to attract and to repel. As all mass is constantly changing both of these dimensions, all mass is varying in its ability to attract and to repel. Revolution is the opposite of rotation. One exactly balances the other in accordance with the law that there can be no increase or decrease in any effective motion without a balancing decrease or increase in its opposite effect. Also, one eventually overtakes the other in accordance with the universal law of sequential preponderance in all opposite effects of motion. Revolution is an effect of motion employed by electricity to increase surface tension pressure in order that it may accomplish its desire of converting the universe into solids. Electricity conquers magnetism in its sequentially preponderant power of generation and regeneration. Rotation is an effect of motion employed by magnetism to counteract the desire of electricity by disassociating that which electricity has associated. Magnetism conquers electricity in its sequential preponderance power of degenerating that which electricity has generated. All mass is simultaneously electric and magnetic, but preponderantly one or the other, cumulatively in endless, repetitive sequence. All mass simultaneously revolves and rotates though one effect is always preponderant, while the other one is preparing for its right of preponderance. All opposite effects of motion are simultaneous in the expression of their sex opposition, but preponderant in sequence in each sex expression. Each oscillation of the opposing electric and magnetic forces is simultaneous, but one is greater than the other.